Hey guys, it's NeverSink. Today I want to talk a little bit about the Affliction leak, the implications on the filter, our progress on the loot filter in general, some implications of the Affliction leak on the in-game economy, some game design decisions in the Affliction leak that I like to highlight, and in general give you a little bit of a developer update. Now, this is something I'm gonna try to do quite a bit more often in the future, just making a 10-ish minutes long video talking about some filter and PoE and game dev related stuff. I might also talk a little bit about my Unity game development attempts and thoughts about the PoE changes in terms of game development, so not just balance, but how they were intended, their thoughts and motivations behind them, because I feel like these topics are interesting and actually quite fun to discuss. All right, let's jump right in. Right, let's run through the leak and then focus on the further part. So the leak itself looks, in my opinion, absolutely fantastic. There are some things to worry about, but the overall idea, implementation, changes, patch notes are all really cool. I feel like the whole concept of the wildwood is really awesome. I like the fact that it influences the normal maps. I like the exploration part, and it just looks really cool. My worry is that they might not get the balance right. Searching around in the dark while looking for wisps might backfire if the wisps are not too exciting, or if there's not enough events there, or if there's too high of a monster difficulty because they kind of leap onto you from the dark. There's a lot of things that requires fine balance by GG, and considering GG's crazy schedule, I believe one or two things might or even will go wrong. That being said, I'm sure those will be patched pretty quickly. Usually GG takes care of those things quite well, and I think the release will actually be quite fine. Now, the rewards from the wildwood are of course absolutely interesting. The ascendancies are awesome. I'm a little bit worried about the warlock. I feel like the Warden of the Major is probably the best ascendancy I've seen from those three. I really like the tinctures. I really like the concept of also the Magi that allows you to go with ES archers and ES two-handed weapons very effectively now with doubled defenses from body armor, and also gives like leveling boosts, and everything all around here just seems really cool. The Warlock, however, cool setup, but by just looking at the skills, this seems active, this seems active, this is active, this is kind of niche with blood magic, powerful but niche. It feels like most of these are somewhat mutually exclusive, since they'll be all fighting for your clicky time on your hotkeys. They'll all focus on different archetypes. I'm not sure how well that'll perform, but I suppose we'll see. And finally, the Primal is, of course, a great late game class. If those charms are as strong as they've been revealing, I think in the late game we'll see quite a bit of use there. Now, the gem system, I'm happy to see the gem system. Quite honestly, really happy about that. I'm glad the enchantments are gone. We'll talk about the implications for the filter in a second. I'm glad that out qualities are gone. I'm glad that threshold juice are gone. Those always felt a little bit like a crutch in the past. Out qualities were very hard to review. They also have been somewhat weird because most of them were very low influential, so you've been basically, of course there have been some difference, but you've basically been picking up small minor upgrades, and this didn't feel very interesting. So I like the idea that qualities now really matter and you want to have the qualities. I like the idea that the lab gets a new reward, even if I'm not sure if this is actually a great reward concept. Now, what I think happened is that they basically replaced their enchantment thing, removed them, right? Completely, the enchantments have been completely removed, and they build those new gems. And at some point, GG was, well, what do we do with the lab now? It has no rewards. And they decided to basically plug the void by the new system. I wouldn't be surprised if this will be moved or changed in the future, because no one is particularly love to run lab, or at least most people don't. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. But still, with Ultimatum back and all the other changes, I think this is a very good patch, and I think it will be a good time to play PoE. This is a good segue for me to actually take a look at the patch notes. So I'm only going to focus on the gem part and the unique balance. I think the overall the unique balance is perfectly fair. Heat Shiver and Calm Spirit have been nerfed. Quite understandably, those are very, very powerful and also way too common for the power they gave. I absolutely don't get the replica perfect form change. I don't know why it was nerfed. I don't get the new setup, but you know, if they had to murder one thing and everything else is good, if this is the price for us to pay, that's fine. The rest is pretty much alright or doesn't influence the filter very much. Ashes of the Star will still be fantastic. Relocation Patience seems to be very powerful in the new version, just not very abusey. It's also not too powerful. Many builds can find ways to generate charges in a natural way, and it doesn't provide much beyond the charge boost. So you will probably want to use it in combination with something like, I don't know, Toolful to actually take a full advantage of it. So, what else? Gem cutter changes. Whoops. Yeah, the gem cutter change. Let's search for recipe. Can you find it? Yeah, the vendor recipe for turning a level 20 gem into a 20% quality level 1 version of the gem no longer works with skill gems. This is a monumental change into the way the meta works. Previously, one of the main ways to gain power was gem levels. The upgrade from the level 20 to level 21 was always a little bit tricky, but now it will be even more tricky. This is a bit of a emergent mini nerf to the progression of casters, actually, if you think about that. But more importantly, it means you'll need a ton more gem cutters in order to get your level 21 gems. So what will happen now is that you actually will need to level gems, transform them into transfigure the gems of the version you want. I think the reverse order also works. Level those gems to level 20, apply quality on them, and then corrupt them. We don't know if the new enchantment table in the lab offers any kind of corruption outcome things. I wouldn't think it does. So who knows, maybe very rarely. This also implies that Alva might be a little bit more valuable because she offers the double gem corruption thing. Overall, this will lead to gem cutter recipe being more demanded. That means I'll be changing the strictness and appearance on quality gems, or the thing shift a little bit. Certain divination cards will become a little bit more expensive. We'll see how this plays out. But I think overall, this is a good change for the game. I feel like the new gem system is much better. So what else is new? Well, I've been doing a lot of work on the filter, and I would like to show off some of the features we built. So first of all, I would like to show you the biggest change, or one of the two biggest changes, but now it's just one. One of the biggest changes to the filter and to the filter blade. This is the automated stacked currency tiering on filter blade. This took a lot of time and design effort to get right, but it is finally working, and I'm actually very, very happy about that. It will also receive a little bit of quality of life soon, like polishing UI, pictures, and so forth, but we're already very happy with it. You can, by the way, test it on the live version of Filterblade already. So, but what does it do? Well, on Filterblade, if you take a look at something like large stacks or small stacks, you have these stacked tier lists of currency, right? And if you go to general currency and adjust something here, let's say you wanna see a lot of fusings, right? And fusings for you are of higher value. So you pull up the fusings from mid-tier to high tier 3. Fair, right? Fusings are now there. But you want the same to apply with stacked currency. So you will probably have to, at some point, go to small stacks or large stacks and do the same in those. And this can become quite a nuisance after a while, especially if you keep reworking those tier lists, right? So you will need to find the fusing up here, and this means fusing, right? Here it is, and you potentially want it to look like this now, since it kind of gets an upgrade by being in a small stack. And now you want to do the same with the large stacks, and this is also very nasty and annoying to do with all kinds of things. So we've built a workaround. Now you have those stack tiering modes. These have 3 different modes. The default one is the one I'm using right now. Everything is basically done the same way as before. The pre-generated filter comes with large stacks and small stacks that are generated according to the base filter. And you can still retier everything yourself. This is the base mode that every filter on FilterBlade starts with. Now the uniform mode just disables those. That means every item will look the same, no matter if it's 1 of them or 10 of them. And this might be exactly what you look for, because it allows you to have a lot of, well, uniform and simplified tiering, right? However, the real star is the custom mode. And this opens this UI that is a little bit confusing on the first side, but it's actually very, very cool. So on the vertical side, you see the tier, right? You can see what items are in the tier. On the horizontal side, you see the stack size. The way you need to read it, that if this tier, the chromatic orb is in, becomes on the stack size of 3 or larger, this upgrades to this appearance. If it's 6 or larger, this becomes to this appearance. Oh, it changes to this appearance, right? And this affects every single tier. You can drag and drop these, so you can change how many items it takes. You can click on every individual tier and disable, enable them. You can change all of the colors. You can, of course, copy paste those if you want to make it a little bit easier on yourself, right? And once you've selected this mode, you no longer need to do anything regarding these things. Everything will be managed automatically for you. So all you need to do is you can drag and drop these the way you want, put them anywhere. For instance, you want to drag up the chromatic orbs. And now if I go into simulate and update the currency tiering, just say, you can already see this works. So this applies and it automatically adjusts the stacked appearance. It will also change the stacked currency every time you load the filter, so it will behave exactly according to the rules of your filter. So this is really awesome. I think it's really great for everyone. It allows for a lot better custom setups, and you will basically just have to design these. So if you feel like the offset here should be like 5 orbs before it goes to the vacant here, oh, there's still this offset bug. It'll be fixed in a few hours. Yeah, if you want it to be 5, this means you need at least 5 on the tier 2 tier in order for it to get upgraded to tier 1 tier, right? All right. This, of course, is not the only change we've done. There's a lot of other small changes incoming. For instance, you can now move items to a certain tier by right-clicking. This was there before, but now it comes with the appearance of the tier. Improvements to search, improvements to certain tier lists, small bug fixes, improvements all around FilterBlade. Yeah, I think you'll see those when you use FilterBlade next time. There's some more improvements coming in the next days. You'll find all the patch notes on the FilterBlade Discord. On top of that, the filter actually received extensive changes itself. So there's a lot of structural changes that I don't want to dive deeper in. For instance, I've been replacing contained searches with exact searches. Filter builders will know this as the equal sign. This is good for performance. This is good for exact matching. So I've been working a lot to become much more consistent in the design decisions behind my filter. But on top of that, there's just a lot of interesting things coming up when it comes to the economy of the filter. And by that, I mean the tiering. So previously, every single tier list used to have its own list of thresholds, and those would depend a little bit on the divine or price and also a static part. And this has been mostly working quite well, but has been quite annoying to maintain, and also led to the feeling that things are not exactly the same in the whole filter. So sometimes one tier list looked a little bit wilder or different than the other one. Now, sometimes it was due to just certain things requiring more work in terms of economy tiering. For instance, the incubator tiering has been a little bit wild in the past months. It received a full rework, but not only that, all of the thresholds, all of the tier lists have been streamlined. Basically, these thresholds for all items are now following these progressions. There's 3 progressions, and the progression depend on the state in the economy. So these slides represent different economy states. So for instance, the uniques, well, let's go with these. Most thresholds, most tier lists in the filter, like delirium orbs and incubators and divination cards, require a certain item to be worth at least 40 chaos, more or less on league start, for it to make it into tier 1. This price goes up to 55 later on the league when the divine is worth 55 chaos. Now, of course, there's exceptions. Awakening gems, for instance, have higher threshold for that, more or less 3 times the 55 chaos, and some other items have other exceptions as well. But overall, this is still the old and refined system, just giving a whole new rework, refactored, improved, all of the small special cases and bugs and problems streamlined. So like PoE, in PoE, more multipliers stack and lead to a much better result in the end. You can think of all of these reworks as small more multipliers to the filter. We've also reviewed every single unique and their aspects, meta information used in order to tier uniques correctly. We've introduced some new functionalities into the filter. There are some new unique tiering rules. There are some new divination tiering rules. There's a lot of small improvements going on in general. Covering every single one in detail would take too much effort, but let me just show you a small assortment of different improvements. So for instance, certain uniques will be worth less at the start of the league when using previous economy data to generate the early league filters, because these uniques only gain value later on in the league. A good example would be the Supreme Truth Scepter. This has absolutely no value at the start, but becomes a little bit more important when people are using it to do some Legion farming. Or items for the Animated Guardian usually don't have any price in the first 2 or 3 days, but then slowly start picking up because Guardians keep dying and people keep creating more. There's special rules. For instance, if all of the uniques are dropped by bosses, now the filter will tier them a little bit better. There's special rules, like a rule for Calm's Heart that is filtered by it not having sockets. There's improvements to the unique tiering where items have been reviewed in terms of their aspects. So certain items have received a high variety aspect. That means they have a whole wide range of roles. So these are now being treated a little bit better. There has been a whole review of the early league uniques. In general, there's a lot of technical things there. I would like to talk about those a little in more detail in a future devlog, but I would like to show you some other new features as well. One of them are the memories. So the new filter will be also doing some tiering for the memory prices, and I'm still figuring out the proper threshold there. I think it will be a little bit higher than 60 chaos, but I'm not sure about that quite yet. But that means if you find an INA memory and it's expensive, you will see it. And this is of course economy tier. We've also introduced the Sanctum uniques. So if you find something like Papyrus Relic or Sensor Relic, those be tiered correctly. And I think this is a quite nice improvement in running Sanctums. I mean, it is awesome if you find the original scripture and get the shrink sound right. Finally, also sadly and definitely least, I've built a whole system for tiering enchantments. Now this one is gone and dead because enchantments have been removed from the game. It took a lot of effort, but overall I'm not too upset about that because I've been very, very worried about the feedback loops on enchantment systems, so that is fine. The whole changelog is shaping up to be quite long, so there's a lot of things there. There's improvements to all kinds of styles. I also hope to finish at least one new style until the start of the league. There's details about this whole tiering overhaul. I've also added some new identified item highlight rules, flask improvements, leveling improvements. So it's a fully packed thing. We've been very busy over the last weeks. But yeah, that's more or less it. Over the next weeks, I hope to make a few more videos rambling about the state of Affliction. Maybe I'll make one of my more or less well-known Twitter rant threads. I also want to talk a little bit more about game development and show you my experiences about working on a small game in Unity. I'm not sure yet if I'll make a dedicated channel for that or keep it on the NeverSink YouTube channel. We'll talk about that later. In any case, I have a lot more work to do until Friday. I'll be streaming the release of the filter on Friday as usual. The filter will be finished by Friday. You'll also have all of the filter blade improvements will be there. You can also load your filter on Friday and get all of your changes merged into your latest filter. It doesn't look like there will be a lot of invalidations, so pretty much you'll keep all of the changes. Well, of course, except for the enchantment stuff for obvious reasons. But yeah, this is more or less it. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found this vidlog, devlog a little bit interesting. Please give me some comments what you think about that, what you think about the general quality. Would you like to see more of that? Do you think this is a useful format or not? I hope you're excited for the league. I certainly am, and I'd like to see you next time. Bye.